All right, so Phuket's on your radar, huh?
Yeah.
The beaches, the food, the real estate craze. You're not the only one.
hmm
We're taking a deep dive into the Phuket property market today, and wow, it's like things are on fire.
It's not just prices going up, it's a wave of new development. You don't see this kind of transformation every day.
Condos and vacation homes selling like hotcakes, prices hitting record highs, and get this, total sales have already blown past 100 billion baht.
Wow.
We got some great sources lined up for you from Nation Thailand, the Phuket News, even Business Insider, to really get a grip on what's happening. But the big question is what's fueling this insane growth? Who's buying? And where's this all headed? Let's break it down.
To understand just how big this boom is, imagine almost 9,000 condo units hitting the market right now. And that's on top of the thousands sold just last year. It's like everyone decided at the same time that Phuket is the place to be.
It really does feel that way.
Right.
It's not just any developers jumping in, right? We're seeing some major players, big names like Sansiri and AssetWise.
Exactly. These are developers with a serious track record, which shows how confident they are in this market. And it's not just condos. Vacation homes are part of the action, too. Over 1,000 new units, many of them on the desirable western side of the island. Prices there, a cool 5 to 10 million baht.
5 to 10 million baht. Not exactly spare change. So who's actually buying all these properties?
That's where things get interesting. It's not just your typical vacation home buyer rush. We're seeing a new kind of buyer, wealthy individuals looking for second homes, and that's changing the whole game.
So it's not just about escaping the cold anymore. It feels like a lifestyle change, a long-term investment.
You got it. This post-pandemic world has people rethinking priorities, and for many that means owning a piece of paradise. This shift has supercharged the middle and upper segments of the market, while interestingly, entry-level purchases are slowing down a bit.
That makes a lot of sense. And we can't forget about the international buyers, right? I've heard about a surge in Russian buyers, for example.
The global interest is fascinating. Russians are definitely making their presence known, and we're also seeing Israelis opting for longer stays. The demand from European and Asian buyers is so high that many developments have hit their foreign ownership limits.
Wait, there are limits on foreign buyers in Phuket?
Absolutely. Foreigners can only own a certain percentage of units in any given project. This quota system has been around for decades, mainly to protect high ownership and control over land. It's something potential buyers need to be aware of.
So in some cases, if you're not quick enough, you might end up with a long-term lease instead of owning the property outright.
Exactly. It adds another layer of complexity to this already dynamic market. And with all this demand coming from around the world, it's no surprise that land prices are shooting up.
I can imagine we're talking prime real estate in one of the most sought-after locations in the world. How much are we talking about percentage-wise?
Brace yourself. Land prices have tripled in the past decade. In some areas, they're jumping by double digits every year.
Tripled. That's incredible. Where are we seeing the most dramatic increases?
Beachfront property is always hot, but the prices in Patong are mind-blowing. Picture this 180 million baht per ray.
180 million for a single ray. That's okay. I'm impressed.
It shows just how powerful the forces are in this market. Tourism is the engine driving this demand, pushing prices higher and higher.
So we've got a booming market, sky-high prices, international buyers pouring in. It's like Phuket struck gold. But the question everyone's asking is this sustainable? Are we looking at a bubble ready to burst, or is Phuket on its way to becoming the next global real estate hotspot?
That's the million baht question, isn't it? The market is red hot right now, but there are some potential challenges to consider. It's not all sunshine and beaches.
Okay, let's talk about those challenges. What are the risks lurking beneath the surface of this seemingly unstoppable boom? What should our listener be thinking about?
One of the biggest risks is oversupply. If all these new developments hit the market at the same time, it could lead to prices dropping.
So all those shiny new condos might not be such a sure thing after all.
Exactly. It's not just about building, it's about having enough buyers to fill those units and keep those prices up. And of course, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, the global economy.
This is where things get really interesting, right? Real estate doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's connected to the global economy.
You got it. The global economy is like a giant wave that can either lift all boats or capsize them. And right now, there are some rough waters out there. Inflation is a concern in many parts of the world, and interest rates are rising. This could make it more expensive for buyers to get loans for those dream vacation homes.
And then there are the geopolitical wildcards, right? We've seen how the conflict in Ukraine affected the Russian buyer market. Who knows what the future holds?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Global events can have ripple effects that reach all the way to Phuket. It's a reminder that while this market is hot, there are external factors that could change its course.
So it sounds like a mix of excitement and caution is the best approach. There's a lot of potential for growth, but also some real risks to consider. What's your advice for our listener who might be dreaming of owning their own little piece of paradise in Phuket?
If Phuket is calling your name, go in with a healthy dose of skepticism. Do your research. Understand the market, and most importantly, don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Diversify, diversify, diversify.
Precisely. Spread your investments and be prepared for the long game. Now let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about the economics of this boom, but there's another side to this, the impact on Phuket itself.
Right. It's not just about the investors and the developers. There are real people, real communities whose lives are being affected by this real estate whirlwind.
This rapid development is changing the face of Phuket. We're seeing new infrastructure, new businesses, and a whole new group of people moving to the island.
And I imagine not everyone is happy about these changes. There are probably concerns about preserving Phuket's unique culture and environment amidst all this growth.
Absolutely. There's a delicate balance to find between economic growth and protecting what makes Phuket so special.
So how do you find that balance? How do you make sure that growth benefits everyone, not just a select few?
It's a complex challenge, and there are no easy answers.
Yeah.
But it starts with recognizing that sustainable development isn't just a buzzword, it's essential. It's about finding ways to combine economic growth with social and environmental responsibility.
So it's about building a future for Phuket that respects its past and its people.
Exactly. And that involves talking to local communities, listening to their concerns, and finding solutions that benefit everyone. It's about responsible development that doesn't sacrifice Phuket's soul.
Well said. We've only scratched the surface of this multifaceted story. We'll be back to explore the social and cultural impacts of this real estate boom and delve into what the future might hold for Phuket and its people. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about those potential risks in the Phuket property market. Oversupply is one that really stands out.
Okay, let's dig into that. What exactly does oversupply look like in a market like Phuket's, and why is it important for our listeners?
Imagine a beautiful table piled high with delicious food. There's so much to choose from, it's almost too much. Now, if you don't have enough people to eat all that food, what happens? Some of it goes to waste, right? That's oversupply. When you have more properties than buyers, it can push prices down.
So instead of your beachfront villa going up in value, it could actually lose value.
Right.
That's a scary thought for anyone who's invested in this market.
You got it. That's why you need to look beyond the hype and understand how supply and demand really work.
So we've got all these new units coming onto the market, but is the demand really there to absorb all this inventory? What are some signs our listeners should look for?
Everyone wants to know that, and there's no easy answer. The demand right now is strong, fueled by those international buyers and increasingly wealthy Thais, but it's not unlimited.
What are some things that might tell us if the demand is starting to change?
Keep an eye on things like occupancy rates in existing developments. Are they consistently high? Are developers offering incentives to attract buyers? Those could be early signs that the market is cooling down.
So don't just jump in head first. Check the water temperature first.
Exactly. Look past the flashy marketing and dig into the data. And while we're talking about things that can shake things up, let's not forget about the global economy.
It's all connected, right? What's happening on the other side of the world can really affect a market like Phuket's.
Absolutely. The global economy can be like a tide, lifting all boats or leaving them high and dry. And right now, there are a lot of strong currents out there. Inflation is still a worry in a lot of countries, and interest rates are going up. This could make it harder for buyers to finance those dream homes, and that could cool down demand.
And then there are those geopolitical wildcards. We saw how the conflict in Ukraine changed the Russian buyer market. It shows that things happening far away from Phuket can have a big impact.
It's like trying to predict the weather. There are so many factors, and it's impossible to know for sure what will happen.
So it seems like a mix of excitement and caution is the way to go. There's potential for growth, but some real risks to be aware of.
Yeah.
What's your advice for our listener who's thinking about buying their own slice of paradise in Phuket?
If Phuket is calling your name, be a little skeptical. Do your research, understand how the market works, and don't put all your money in one place.
Diversify, diversify, diversify.
Right. That's it. Spread your investments and be in it for the long haul. Now let's switch gears. We've talked about the money side of this boom, but what about the impact on Phuket itself?
Yeah. We can't forget that real estate isn't just about buildings. It's about people's lives, their communities. It's about a sense of place. And for a lot of people who lived in Phuket for a long time, this boom has brought a mix of good and bad.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new developments, but real estate is about people. It's about their jobs, their homes, how they feel connected to a place. And for a lot of longtime residents, this boom has been a mixed bag.
Let's talk about the downsides. What are some of the pressures on local communities as this development keeps growing?
One of the biggest is the rising cost of living. As property prices go up, so do rents and the cost of everything else. This is a real problem for local families who aren't benefiting from the boom.
So while some people are celebrating big profits, others are struggling just to afford to live in paradise.
That's the tough reality. It's creating a bigger gap between those who are doing well and those who are being left behind.
That sounds like it could lead to some tension. Are
Yeah.
we seeing any pushback from locals who feel like they're being pushed out?
There's definitely a growing sense of worry among some residents who feel like their voices aren't being heard. They see their neighborhoods changing, their way of life disappearing, and they're worried about being priced out of the only home they've ever known.
It's a common story, isn't it? Progress often has a cost,
Hmm.
and sometimes those who can least afford it are the ones who pay. But are there any efforts to make things better? To make sure development is more inclusive and benefits everyone?
There are some good things happening. Some developers are starting to take a more sustainable approach that considers the community. They're talking to local people, listening to their concerns, and including their feedback in their projects.
So it's not just about building fancy condos and resorts. It's about building a future for Phuket that respects its past and its people.
Exactly. It's about understanding that true progress isn't just about the economy. It's about creating a place where everyone feels like they belong, where culture and history are preserved, and where the environment is protected.
That's a powerful vision. How can we make sure it's not just a dream but actually happens? What can our listeners do, even if they're not buying or selling real estate, to help make Phuket's future more sustainable and fair?
One of the most important things is to be aware. Learn about the problems local communities are facing, what's being done to help, and how you can support businesses and groups that are working to make development responsible.
So be a conscious consumer. Make choices that reflect your values and speak up for positive change.
Absolutely. Every choice we make, from the hotels we choose to the souvenirs we buy, can have an impact. And don't underestimate the power of simply connecting with local communities, learning about their culture and traditions, and showing them respect.
Those are great points to remember. So as we move towards the end of our deep dive into the Phuket property market, it's clear that we're dealing with a complex situation. There's a lot of potential, but also some real challenges that require careful thought and a commitment to doing things the right way.
It's a story that's still unfolding, and we don't know how it will end. But one thing is for sure. The future of Phuket depends on finding a balance between progress and preserving what makes it special, between economic growth and social fairness, between embracing the new and honoring the old.
Well said. It reminds us that paradise isn't just a place. It's a delicate balance of natural beauty, rich culture, and the people who call it home. And it's up to all of us, residents, investors, visitors, everyone, to make sure Phuket's future is as bright as its past.
We've looked at the ups and downs of the Phuket property market, the good and the bad, and the delicate balance that's needed to ensure a sustainable future for this amazing island. As always, we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep digging into this ever-changing market. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and stay curious.
Okay, so we're back, and before the break, we were really getting into the idea of balancing progress and preservation, making sure that development benefits everyone, not just a select few. But what does that actually look like? In real life, how is this boom impacting the everyday folks who call Phuket home?
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of all these new developments, but we got to remember, real estate isn't just about buildings. It's about people. It's about their livelihoods, their sense of belonging. And for a lot of the people who've lived in Phuket for a long time, this boom has been a mixed bag, you know, good and bad.
Let's unpack those challenges. What are some of the things local communities are up against as all this development speeds up?
Well, one of the most immediate impacts is that the cost of living is going way up. As property values soar, so do rents and the cost of just everyday stuff. This really puts the squeeze on local families who aren't seeing the benefits of all this real estate activity.
So some are celebrating these big profits while others are struggling just to afford to live in paradise.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. It creates this gap that keeps widening between those who are doing well and those who are getting left behind.
That sounds like a recipe for some social unrest.
Hmm.
Are we seeing any pushback from locals who feel like they're getting pushed out?
There's definitely a growing sense of unease among some residents. They see their neighborhoods changing, their way of life slipping away, and they're worried about being priced out of their homes, the place they've known their whole lives.
It's a classic story, right? Progress often comes with a cost, and sometimes it's those who can least afford it who pay the price. But are there any efforts to soften the blow? to ensure that development is more inclusive and benefits everybody?
Well, there are some positive things happening. Some developers are starting to take a more sustainable approach, an approach that really considers the community. They're actually talking to local residents, listening to their concerns, and incorporating that feedback into their projects.
So it's not just about building luxury condos and resorts. It's about building a future for Phuket that respects its past and its people.
Exactly. It's about realizing that true progress goes beyond just economic growth. It's about creating a place where everyone feels valued, where their culture and heritage are protected, and where the environment is taken care of.
That's a powerful idea. But how do we make sure that's not just a dream, but a reality? What can our listeners do, even those who aren't buying or selling property, to help make Phuket's future more sustainable and equitable?
One of the most important things is just to be aware.
Okay.
Educate yourself about the challenges facing local communities and what's being done to address them, and how you can support businesses and organizations that are committed to responsible development.
So being a conscious consumer, making choices that line up with your values, and using your voice to advocate for change.
Absolutely. Every choice we make makes a difference, from the hotels we stay at to the souvenirs we buy. And never underestimate the power of connecting with the local communities, learning about their culture and traditions, showing respect for their way of life.
These are great points to remember. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Phuket property market, it's clear that it's complicated, it's constantly evolving, there's huge potential, but also real challenges that need to be carefully considered and addressed with a commitment to responsible development.
It's a story that's still being written, and the ending is uncertain. But one thing's for sure, the future of Phuket hinges on finding that delicate balance between progress and preservation, between economic growth and social equity, between embracing the new while honoring the old.
Really well said. It's a good reminder that paradise isn't just a place. It's this fragile ecosystem, this tapestry of natural beauty culture and the spirit of its people. And we all have a role to play. Residents, investors, visitors, everyone in making sure Phuket's future is as bright as its past. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Phuket property market. We hope this has given you a lot to think about as you consider your own role in the future of this amazing island.
And as always, we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep exploring the dynamic world of real estate. Until next time.